Welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, your host. Have you been attempting to use law of attraction or hypnosis to attract financial abundance, a soulmate, or career success? Would you like to be happy, motivated, and successful? Have better health, enjoy more fulfilling relationships, overcome struggle, and gain mastery over your life? Then join me on this amazing self-help podcast where you'll unleash the power of your mind. I'll be sharing 20 years of wisdom and techniques of hypnotherapy, law of attraction, visualization, meditation, personal growth, positive affirmations, and other effective methods to help you tap into the great power which resides in your mind and become the best version of yourself. So hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You are listening to episode number 60. I'm Victoria Gallagher. I'm a law of attraction coach and a #1 best-selling author of the book Practical Law of Attraction. Align yourself with manifesting conditions and successfully attract your desires. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist and founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps. So be sure to stop by HipTalk.com and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course. And for our listeners who found us through Power of Your Mind podcast, you can receive 35% off your first order of hypnosis downloads when you apply the code podcast to your shopping cart. And finally, be sure to watch for and download our latest HypnoCloud app in the iTunes store that's launching real soon. So today I have a special guest with me, Dr. Will Horton. Dr. Will Horton is considered by many to be the world's leading NLP trainer, and he is also a licensed psychologist, a certified alcohol and drug counselor, and a master hypnotist. He was one of the few non-law enforcement people to be asked to attend the FBI Crisis Hostage Negotiation course at the FBI Academy. And he is the author of several books: Mind Control, How to Get Others to Do What You Want, Primary Objective Neuro-Linguistic Psychology, and Guerrilla Warfare. And he's also the co-author of Selling Yourself to Others, The New Psychology of Sales, Subconscious Communication, Key to Success, and Fat Loss Forever, a 12-step approach to weight loss. Dr. Horton's articles are regularly featured in the Journal of Hypnotism, the country's largest hypnosis publication, and he presently travels throughout the world training people in the skills of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, hypnosis, performance enhancement, and the art of business communications. He's also the founder of National Federation of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, for the 21st century, and creator of several best-selling home study courses in NLP. Actually, I am a student of one of those courses, and so I can definitely vouch for it. Lots of great information there. And you're going to often find him on your favorite radio and television stations sharing his extensive knowledge with his audience. His next book, Mind Control in the 21st Century, is going to be out in the fall. So today, Will is going to be sharing some of his insights about addiction. So welcome to the show, Will.
I'm glad to be here. Good.
Good.
Always my favorite subject.
Yes, definitely. Well, it's such an important topic. I mean, haven't we all dealt with addiction at some level, at some point in our lives, if we're being real honest?
Oh, yeah. I just read an article that I think it was posted in The Guardian in the UK, but it's pretty applicable everywhere, about the problem of it, even if it's secondhand addiction.
Yeah, the codependency is that.
Well, later it was an article about a young girl that got killed by a drunk driver when she's out on a bike ride. And of course, yes, it ruins the drunk driver's life, his family's life. But there's the girl, she's gone, her family, her friends. It ripples out. So it's, and what we have a tendency to do, I think, in our culture is we we've become so specialized, we focus on one little aspect of a major problem. And here in the States, everybody's still talking about the opioid epidemic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a big epidemic. It's a problem. But at the same time, and it's not that I'm anti-drinking, more people will die from alcohol abuse in the next few weeks than die all year from opioids.
Right. Yeah. And it's just because it's new, and that's the sort of the latest trend is getting addicted to opioids, but alcohol is definitely killing more.
It reminds you of the 60s, where a guy'd be standing there with his scotch yelling at those hippies smoking dope. I got no problems in there. And we're doing it. You see it now. Some guy drinking his beer going, yeah, those weak-willed people drink, getting hooked on opioids as they're chugging their Lone Star beer.
It doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, so it's out there. So it's a bigger problem, and there's a lot of reasons why it's not addressed as it should be.
Right. And what would you say is like the number one reason why we're not addressing it?
Well, first, there's so damn much money involved.
Yeah.
It is, and I'll always pick on the alcohol one because it's so easy. But what would the National Football League be without beer? Beer commercials. If they pulled the beer commercials, would we be seeing these football players make $200 million? I don't think so.
Yes.
And again, more, 9 out of 10 people can do fine with it, right? So there's so much money, there's so much misinformation. Our culture, kind of worships it in a weird way. And part of this, though, is the fact that, especially people of European descent, that wine and mead kept people alive during dysentery. You couldn't drink the water because you get dysentery and die, but you could drink mead, which is like a weird beer, right? Or wine. And so because the alcohol would kill the dysentery, and so there's some of that, right? So it's been kind of thing, and it goes with our, and we both talked before about how weight loss can be a problem because we equate food with bonding and fellowship and family. And with that kind of goes with it is like, have a drink.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's so ingrained into our culture that this is something that you have to do in order to be socially accepted. I mean, some people that, if you don't drink, you may not be socially accepted. By the way, Michelle Hoffer says Dr. Will is fabulous.
Oh, so. Good. I'll release her dog now.
And, I can kind of relate to that in a little bit of a way. I mean, my first addiction that I ever had in my life was to cigarettes. And I started smoking when I was 8 years old. And that a lot of people think, whoa, that is crazy. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it all as far as, when people started smoking. But it was me in the house picking, everybody in the house smoked. All the adults and the grown-ups, the important people smoked. And I really equated the smoking with being a grown-up and being important. And my grandma would leave her cigarettes half smoked in the ashtray. And so I would go and relight the cigarette up and just take a couple little puffs off of it. Well, then one day in school, and I wasn't very popular in school, so my one and only friend that I made, it turns out she did the same thing. And so when we got together, we decided to go into some private area and light up our little cigarettes. And it was I didn't know at the time when I was 8 years old that this was happening, or actually by then I was probably 10 or 11. It was like fourth grade when we met, and we just were having such a bonding experience. Like I felt like, wow, I mean, she really gets me. I really get her. And here we are, and we're making fun out of it. We're like, doing like the thing that Dana Carvey used to do on Saturday Night Live, letting the ash get as long as it possibly could before it would fall off the cigarette. And so looking back on that experience in hindsight, that was the reason I was so hooked, because it made me feel so accepted and so loved and so connected to this girl. But of course, I did quit as in 98. So thank goodness. Thank goodness for the lung collapse. That set me on the path to become a non-smoker. But, I just thought I'd share that because it's...
Well, yeah, and you bring something up that you see constantly, which you always, a lot of times you hear people with an addiction talk about whatever the addiction is: alcohol, drugs, smoking, gambling, sex, porn, food, even if it's, and actually that's a weird addiction. We could talk about that later. But all those others, it's like, you'll always hear someone say it's like they had a hole in their soul or a hole in their heart. And when they found whatever that addiction was, they felt normal.
Yeah.
They felt the connection. I always say my story about with alcohol is pretty close to yours. I was pretty gregarious and outgoing as a kid. My personality base is, as you well know, I'm kind of a asshole sometimes, but I'm always out there doing stuff. I've always been that way. And yet, in high school, I was the quarterback of the football team. I wrestled. I was kind of, one of those guys. And yet I never felt a part of, because I never felt good enough.
Mm-hmm.
We could go back to childhood origin, but that neither here nor there. I never felt good enough. And I remember I was out with the older guys as a freshman, and they were passing around baby food jars of cherry vodka. Somebody stole some cherry vodka, right? And it was after a football game. After a football game, and they're passing around. Of course, I want to impress these older guys, the juniors and stuff. So I grabbed a little thing, and I probably chugged like 3 ounces, nice big shot. And I felt it burn, go down and hit. And for the first time in my life, I felt normal. Right? And then I felt like I was good enough to be with these guys and to do this and do that. And I would chase that feeling for the next 15 years was my drinking career, as I say. And I was willing to put up with all the bullshit drinking did to me, the lost jobs, lost military career, lost acting career, God knows how many girlfriends I lost, right? I was willing to put up with that, what it was doing to me, because of what it did for me.
Yeah.
It made me feel good.
Right.
And then it came the point where it didn't make me feel good anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That's when, like you say, you have that moment, that epiphany where, the one thing I love is killing me.
Yes, yes.
And it wasn't working anymore.
Right.
It wasn't taking away the pain. In fact, it was making it worse. So then it started me on this whole process that I've been on ever since.
So what would you say is the difference, what causes a person to get addicted? I mean, because you have plenty of people that can drink that, is there, an amount of drinking that means you're addicted? Is there frequency? Is there what makes you addicted? And how do you know, how does a person know that they're in that situation? It's time to take a look at that.
Well, clinically they would say, that there's 2 levels. You got substance abuse, where you're abusing a substance. And the clinical definition would be where it's causing problems, but you continue to do it.
Right.
But you could stop if you wanted to. So that's substance abuse, right?
Okay.
It's up and down. I always say, and substance dependence is it's causing you problems. You keep doing it, but you can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I always tell people that no one just usually wakes up one day and go, I'm going to quit drinking. Sounds like a damn good idea. Usually, my big thing is it's one of the 4 L's gets you to want to quit.
Okay.
Your lover, your liver, the livelihood, or the law.
Oh my goodness, those are great. Those are great. That's a great way to remember it.
And so it might be when I say lover, it could be your lover, your husband, wife, whatever. Could be your family. People who love you say, that's it, you keep doing this, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
You got that. Now, if you get that ultimatum and you keep doing it, that'll let you know you probably got a problem. So it could be your lover, could be your liver. This is what kind of happened to you with smoking. Your lungs collapse. Suddenly you go, this shit's going to kill me.
Yep. Yep.
So that'll, and with alcohol, people get cirrhosis, other things, right? So there's some physical makes you want to do it, right? And then liver, livelihood, your job, your boss, your tells you quit doing this. My commanding officer said I ought to quit. Well, I thought, nope, it's the Army that's the problem. It's not my drinking.
Right.
So yeah, go from being a guy supposed to be getting ready to go to West Point, barely making it through the Army, or the law.
Mm-hmm.
Some addictions, the law will get involved. Alcohol, drugs, things like that, right? And I always use the analogy, just because somebody said, well, if you get a DUI, does that make you an alcoholic? No, I don't know. You might go to a wedding, and in some states, Arizona is one, I think it's 0.08, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in most states it's that. In some states, where is it? Just changed to 0.05. And what that means is if you're an average sized person and you have one drink, you will probably flunk the breathalyzer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you drive within an hour. So they're going to zero, it's zero tolerance. But if you got a DUI and you drank and drove again, then you got a problem. Right?
Yes.
And so there's all these different levels. I have what I think about addictions has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around it for 35 years. I've been sober myself for over 35. And for probably 20 of those years, I was pretty hardcore, traditional, 12-step approach, do this, once you're a pickle, you'll never be a cucumber again. And I was like pretty hardcore. Yeah. But then I was wondering, here's what started me thinking again. I'm still active in a 12-step program myself. I like it. I know it's not for everybody, but I'd sit there and go, why do some people make it and other people don't? Mm-hmm. Given the same tools, right? Yeah. Or they go to treatment, they're given the same tools, and some people make it, other people don't. And what's the thing? And they're doing it, and they're going to their meetings, they're getting a sponsor, they're doing the things they said, and some make it, some don't. So what's the thing underneath it? So that made me start looking at other things and all the science that's behind addictions that we didn't really have 35 years ago. There was no science. And so they only did what seemed to work. And so it started me looking at it, and it made me really shift everything about addiction. One of the things they do know is if you have this genetic quirk, your brain reacts differently. Okay. Than people without it, right?
So some people are born with a propensity to possibly become an addict.
And again, now, the big buzzword in our world it's starting to ripple over, is epigenetics. Mm-hmm. This whole thing about, but that leads to, just because you have the gene doesn't mean it will express itself.
If you find value in this personal growth related material, I strongly recommend that you sign up for your $1 trial to my Personal Growth Club. Just head on over to personalgrowthclub.com and get a whole month of premium Personal Growth Club video training materials, meditations. You also get 6 free hypnosis sessions that are valued at over $174, all for this trial of just $1. Even if you cancel, you can keep the 6 hypnosis sessions. That's my gift to you, and that's how confident I am that you are going to love Personal Growth Club. Go to personalgrowthclub.com and start your $1 1-month trial today. And for those who don't know on the podcast here, what is epigenetics?
Epigenetics is the study of your genetic expression and how your thoughts and your environment affects how your genes respond. It doesn't mean you actually rewrite your genetic code, but you change how your genes respond.
Okay.
And that is controllable, right? By your thoughts, your attitudes, and your perceptions. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you real quick, here's my method, here's my theory of addictions, right? Okay. Which is, when you're quite young, with the exception of a very small section of the population, you're abstinent from alcohol or drugs, whatever it is, or smoking, whatever it is. Maybe your parents smoke, but still you're absent. You're just a little kid. You're like a blank slate. Then you get to the usually like junior high school level. You'll go to where you're socially going to experiment with substances. we'll use substance abuse as the easiest, right? And as much as every parent says, not my kid, bullshit, this is a rite of passage in the Western world, right?
Yeah.
They're going to, and they're their experimentation. It's the experimentation stage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guess what? There's some people that will socially experiment and go, I do not like this. I don't like the way it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't, whatever. And they never do it again. They go back to being abstinent. They just, no, I don't like it. I don't like feeling out of control, whatever it is, right? So that's the social experimentation phase. Then most people will go to the next phase, I call level, which is they're going to socially use. They'll have a drink, not have a drink. Maybe in high school, you go to a football game, drink a few beers, and you might get crazy. You might get drunk every once in a while. It's no big deal, but you're socially using. And the key to that is you can stop. You might not use all the time.
Right.
So, and this is where most people are and most people stay, right? And again, it doesn't mean you don't get drunk like at a wedding or a party or something. It's just you're in this big normal box. Then there's a small subsection that drops into social abuse or substance abuse. And like they start abusing alcohol, drugs, smoking, whatever it is. But they keep doing it even with negative consequence. So like and a lot of times at this level, they're self-medicating, or they're doing it for some other reason. And so they're like a guy going through a bad divorce, so he's drinking too much, he's doing this, so he's abusing the substance, gets in trouble at work, but he keeps drinking, right? So it could be something like that. Or you go through some other trauma in your life, and so you're self-medicating with alcohol or drugs or whatever it is. Fine. And it doesn't just have to be negative. It could be something positive. Not so much positive. You get to a different environment. Some kid goes to college. Down here in Florida, they go to the University of Florida, which is a party school. I'm from Indiana, they go to Indiana University. In Indiana, we say, the smart kids go to Purdue, the partiers go to IU. Mm-hmm. Right? It was just a big party school.
Okay.
And so you go to college and you join a fraternity or sorority. And so you stay drunk for the next 4 years. You barely get through college. Right? But it's no big deal.
Right. Where you're just in party mode.
You might get, you get a letter from the dean, your parents are yelling, screw you, And then, so out of that group, most of those will go back to social use. Mm-hmm. They'll graduate college, they'll get a husband, a wife, girlfriend, whatever, a good job, and they kind of go back to being normal.
Yeah.
Right? Or, the guy or girl overcomes the breakup or the divorce, and then they go back and they can socially use again, right? Even though clinically they had all these markers for an addiction.
Yes, yes.
But there's a small subgroup, the people argue about the percentage, 3 to 10%, that have a genetic quirk that if they get to this, they can't stop.
Okay. So it sounds like almost like a physical, it's like physically embedded.
Yeah, and what AA said 78 years ago is proving even more true, which is some people have an allergy, especially to alcohol or to drugs, and it manifests itself as a craving or a desire to keep using. Right? And if it's an allergy, I always use my wife, she'll hear this, right? But I always use her as an example. She's allergic to shellfish. Right? If she eats shellfish, I don't care how much goddamn positive thinking she's doing, she's going to have a histamine response. Right? And so she doesn't eat shellfish. The only difference is she's not running around going, I can't eat shellfish. I wish I could eat shellfish. But the person with this like allergy kind of thing, the only thing they can do is be abstinent.
Yes.
They can't socially use. This is the guy who gets out of college, goes through several jobs and careers, and at 40, he's still the frat boy.
Right. Now, right? Is this what happened to you before you decided to? Is this how it was for you before you decided to stop?
Well, I think my thing was it just. I jumped right into the deep end of the pool. I loved it. One of the first times I drank, I had a blackout. Never scared me. And a blackout, for people that don't know, doesn't mean pass out. Yeah. A normal person should black out. The American Medical Association still can't explain a blackout. What a blackout is, you drink so much, and opioids will do it too. You take so much, you don't have the memory, but you're still conscious. You're walking around, you're doing things. You know, I was in the Army, you know, I was at work all day and I don't remember it, right? And what makes it interesting is even if someone puts you in deep trance, the memory's not there. I've had arguments with these regression hypnotists. No, the memory's there. I go, no, it's not. It's never recorded because your brain's misfiring. Your brain works on electrical circuits and chemicals. It's like it's not recorded.
Wow.
Right? And so it's like, and usually someone doesn't understand, go, you just don't want to remember last night. Actually, you know, someone I was very close to had a car accident and killed a guy, right? And in 1962 it happened, right? He died in like 1996. And he was sober from 92 after that car wreck. But to the day he died, he couldn't remember that it wasn't in his memory bank, right? And so if you're in this group, if you're in this small subsection, right, the only thing you can do is be abstinent, right? And then you're going to have to do some major lifestyle changes, probably. Now, and the interesting part, we kind of hit on it earlier, and we're going to some conferences soon, you know, and I'll use alcohol because it's a good example. It's one of the few things when people ask me, would you like a drink? No, thank you. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Why not?
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
you can't say no. I mean, obviously.
They expect you know, so.
Well, it's the same thing with food. It's the same thing, you know, I mean, I can tell you I've been doing a keto diet since October. I mean, and when I say
I see it in your face.
You can. Thank you. So since October, and I will go and, you know, to somebody's house or a party or whatever. And I mean, I don't have any cravings for any of the sugar, any of that stuff. I've been doing it long enough that it, you know, but you know, people will offer you things and, you know, rice, pasta, cookies, candy, chips, all of the things that I'm definitely not interested in. But if you say no, they're like, oh, come on, just one won't hurt you. And it's like, yeah, it will actually, because, you know, in order to stay in ketosis, you gotta refrain from that stuff like completely. So yeah, one, absolutely. But people like to push their drugs or their sweets or their alcohol or whatever it is on you.
And you know, it doesn't mean you're not social, but they'll say, are you sure? You know, or I love when they'll go, don't you want to have any fun? And I'm like, I don't know. If you knew me, you pretty much know I usually have a good time.
Yeah.
Right? When we were at and I'm not anti-drinking, we were at the bowling thing.
I was literally just thinking about that.
I was pouring shots. I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me at all. Now, if I'd have been uncomfortable, my butt would have left the room.
Yeah.
Right. But again, and this is one of the things, I can open up a question you're probably about to ask, which is, this is why a lot of people are afraid to quit.
Yes.
Because
they're afraid they're not going to have any fun.
How am I going to answer the question? And usually the easiest answer is just say no.
Yeah.
You know, well, but they're going to want to, oh, maybe I'll say I have a health thing or no, just say no. But it's afraid, right? And then it kind of ties in with the idea, and again, the media sells us on it, that can you ever have fun without drinking? Right? And so that's usually when I get a lot of professionals, to be honest with you, psychologists, social workers, alcohol, drug counselors, a lot of hypnotists end up calling me to fix this problem. It's like, and that's always a lot of their, will I ever have fun again?
Oh.
Well, and that was my thing, because I was, you know, I started drinking really heavy at 14. You know, I quit, you know, totally at 28. But it was like, so my whole life was around it, and all my friends. And of course, then you get into that group. Like if you're a smoker, you hang out with the smokers. If you're a drinker, you hang out with the drinkers. And yeah, and of course you get that closed vision. You think everyone does this. And you know, when I first sobered up, I didn't do theater for a while. I didn't act. for over a year because I said, nope, I blamed the theater. See, that's why I drank. It was the crazy actors. I had the chance to go back and do a show, and I found out, wow, most of these people don't drink. They take their art very serious.
Yeah.
It's like I've heard, there's a lot of rock stars that don't party. They've never partied because they like the music. But, we're taught a different way. It's like I saw a commercial. I think I posted this, right? And I've seen it before, but it's like, and it's one of the big actors like, can't take a vacation, bring the vacation to you. And he holds up a beer, right? Now, if you and I are hypnotists, I'm sitting there going, get the subconscious picture of what he just said.
Right.
And the commercial was on at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, no.
So it's like, yeah, escape the job you hate, the wife you hate, whatever. Have the right, whatever it is, beer, right?
No, actually, I think in a way you could actually end up having more fun.
Well, yeah. You just have to realize maybe there's certain behaviors you're not going to do anymore. There's a lot of times people have certain behaviors they need a drink to justify.
Yeah. When you were talking about one of the reasons that people might get into heavy drinking is when, say, they're going through a life change, a divorce or something like that. There was a time before my husband and I got married, and we were together a few years, and it was really hurtful and that we were breaking up. And so I decided at that time when we broke up, I just didn't want to make any weird mistakes. You've heard of drunk dialing before. And I wanted to have complete control over my mind. I didn't want to slip up. And so I swore off alcohol actually for, like I said, while I'm going through this healing process, I'm not going to just go, I'm going to make myself the best version of myself. And I'm just not even going to drink because, I might feel sad one night and I might drink a little bit more than I should. And I might end up making a mistake and calling him. And I just absolutely didn't want that to happen. So I actually quit drinking, but I would still go to bars actually, because that's where the karaoke was. And so I would still hang out and I was having fun doing the exact same thing, just minus the alcohol.
Well, yeah. And just some people have to learn how to do that. That's the only difference.
Yeah. So why? So let's kind of get in a little deeper here so we talked a little bit about what causes addiction, this thing that you're sort of born with. When people do fail, though, people fail at quitting drinking all the time. They say, I'm going to quit and I'm going to go and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But then something happens in their life and they go right back to it. So why do you say that? Why do you think that maybe treatments that they are going through fail for them?
Well, and what we know now with, some of the science that you're coming up with neuroplasticity and the neurobiology is once you really develop a behavior and a pattern and a habit, if you will, it becomes hardwired in your brain. Right? Now, if you don't do it, they call it going, the behavior will go extinct. But now they also know that the trace elements of that thing is still in your brain. So it's like the best example for a lot of adults might be, riding a bike. If you don't normally ride a bike and you got on a bike today, you could ride it. You might be a little shaky. It's still in your brain patterns. It's in the back, right? So someone could be like they could not drink or smoke or whatever for many years, but if they started again, the old behavior kicks back in. It's actually an adaptive behavior your brain remembers in case you ever need it.
Yes.
Survival mechanism. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
So that's why people have to be constantly vigilant. And I know a lot of people in the self-help world don't like, or, in the lay community, I guess, therapeutic community, because they'll say one of the reasons they don't like the 12-step world is people label themselves. Oh, how could you say you're an alcoholic after 30 years without having a drink, or 35? Well, it depends on what your term alcoholic means.
Right.
And what you'd find is a lot of people that say that, it just to them means they can't drink successfully. I can drink, it just never ends well.
Yeah, if you change the meaning of that to...
So people are putting their meaning on what I'm saying. It's not negative to me. I don't picture a Skid Row wino at the meeting I go to. I've met people that went from Skid Row to now they functional human beings, doing that. But at the meeting I go to, it's funny. We got some guys that 3 years ago were living under a bridge. Now they're doing okay. And then at the same meeting, there's a guy that was a police chief in a major New York City, a couple of retired Army generals. These are high. And people go, really? Oh, they weren't drinking when they did it. Oh, yes, they were.
It's interesting. It just occurred to me. It's almost like because you classified it in a way like an addiction. So it's almost like, for example, or an allergy, you classify it more like an allergy, like a physiological thing. There's people that are diabetic and they have to watch their sugar intake.
Right.
So it's similar to calling yourself a diabetic in a way, the way that you're phrasing it. I'm an alcoholic, so if I drink, it's going to cause problems for me physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And same thing if a person eats sugar, if they eat something that they're allergic to.
Right. Yeah, that's a good, and it gives you a framework of the importance to do what you need to do.
Hello, this is Victoria Gallagher. I hope you're enjoying listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. As a way of thanking you for listening, I'd like to offer you a one-time discount of 35% off your first order at hiptalk.com. Just go to hiptalk.com and enter the code PODCAST in the discount code area in your cart, and you'll receive 35% off your first order. Thank you so much for listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. Yeah, right. I like that. I like that makes it a little bit more, it has a little bit more of a positive spin on it, because it's not like even saying that you have this weakness necessarily. It's just that it just doesn't work with my physical chemistry.
Yeah, when I drink, I break out. Doors, windows, eventually my teeth. Yeah.
I wanted to answer a real quick question here. Robin Nichols said, you can't drink alcohol on keto. Is that correct? And it's actually incorrect. You can drink alcohol on keto, and I do. Alcohol has carbs in it. Some does have more than others. And so, as long as you are kind of watching the amount of carbs that you're taking in, like, I can have a glass of wine, one glass. If I go overboard, then I'm not going to be in ketosis. Or, usually tequila, I think, is one that actually has no carbs in it, but I don't really desire tequila. And if you had just had vodka straight, that has very, very little carb count. So yes, you can have alcohol on keto.
But if you have too much alcohol, you're going to throw the keto out the window, and you're stuffing in chips and tacos.
Exactly. It can definitely impair your judgment. So, and actually, since I've been on keto, I've found that I can drink less because my tolerance has gone down because I have less weight to absorb the alcohol. So, right. I really just try to limit my drinking to 1, maybe 2, but like 2 starts to just not feel good. So,
well, and then too, even somebody, if we went back to my models of like levels or whatever it is, even if somebody that's drinking too much,
yeah,
a lot of people just will naturally age out of that drinking pattern.
Yes.
Their body just can't do it anymore. They might be a hard, where I grew up, I'll use this analogy, a hard drinking steel worker in their 20s, 30s, and in their 40s it starts, because it's like, you just can't go to the bar after working all day in the heat in the steel mill, drink 7 or 8 beers and be functional the next day.
Right. No, I'm actually, I've noticed that as I've gotten older, because I was a party girl and I like to party, but I like literally I can't drink enough to get drunk, because it will catch up with me physically before I'd ever get to that point. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, there's been a few times where I will have 3 and I get sick. 3 makes me, is the point that makes me sick. So I'm like prohibited from actually drinking to the point of oblivion, because it'll catch up with me physically before it'll ever catch up with me mentally.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that that alcohol or any of the addictions do is it stops you from really connecting with your inner self. And what I think too, there's a conflict in between who you really are on the inside and the thing you're projecting outside. Yeah. And if you don't begin to align those two, you're gonna self-medicate some way: alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, whatever it is. And it's that dissonance that you got to kind of, alcohol is but a symptom. They've said that for over 100 years, people studying addictions, right? Yeah. That's why you'll see somebody quit drinking and gain 150 pounds. Yeah. Right? Or they quit drinking and they chain smoke, right? Hazelton did a study of all the people who went through alcohol and drug treatment in Hazelton. This was a study like 20 years ago. More people would die from tobacco-related illnesses than the alcohol and drugs. Because, oh no, we're not going to, it's like, because then now they're just chain smoking. Right. And so it's that facing up to who and what you really are. Yes. And I always say, the work I get to do with people is it takes the heart of a warrior to overcome an addiction, because the thing you have to slay is your own ego. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Definitely. And that's tough. And you got to have the courage. You got to have the courage to do what we said earlier. Just be different than the normal population. You do, and that does take courage. That is something that you have to be willing to stand up for yourself. Oh yeah, yeah. I was at a thing in a training thing, and everybody, well, this afternoon we're gonna leave early. Everybody's going to the bar. I said, well, I'll see everybody tomorrow. Aren't you going to the bar? No, I don't feel like it. And then started all those questionings, and then the board. Come on. Well, it'll be fun. So I go. So I know how to handle that. I go, okay, I'll see you in a few minutes. And my ego is strong enough to realize they're not going to miss me. So you have a new theory about addictions. So what is that new theory? Well, part of it is those levels. And so first you have to figure out where you are, and then to go abstinent for a while so you can figure out what it is, right? And then a lot of people, whether they're an alcoholic or a drug addict or not, once they really taste sobriety or being abstinent, they like it. And if they can find that inner happiness, they don't want to go back to the old behavior. Right. Why would you want to take the edge off if you're enjoying the edge, whatever, right? And so what I do, and what started a couple months or a year ago now, is a new program. It's the Alcohol and Addiction Solution, and it's internet based, because it's easier to get people to log on and do what we're doing now. All the people listening that are hypnotists and therapists, because I'm also a psychologist. The APA predicts that within 20 years, 90% of all your therapy is going to be online. If not quicker. I mean, kids, people my daughter's age would much rather log on and do a session this way than drive 30 minutes to my office, then do an hour, and then drive 30 minutes back. So when they can log on and do it, And so
I love that idea. It's so much more efficient for both sides of the equation.
yeah, and then, and plus you got to get better where you are. The thing about going away to treatment, traditional alcohol and drug treatment for 28 days, 21 days, whatever it is, it works. I don't say it doesn't work, but the thing that begins to happen is what happens when you get home?
Yes.
Your wife's still mad at you, or your husband, your boss, but if you get better where you are, you have a much better long-term efficacy. Right?
That makes sense.
Because
I was literally just thinking that you're already...
You're changing as you go, not now walk back in, and that. So I do it that way. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching. As I said lately, it's all professionals for some reason. And so, yeah, it's because I see the damage that it does.
Mm-hmm.
The loss and the pain, and I always stress to people, talent, ability, and skill is not a vaccine against an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
All we have to do is think of, like, you go down the list, Robin Williams, Heath Ledger, Richard, I can't think of other names, but there's a whole bunch. I mean, all these people, and people don't understand how someone with that, like, wealth, fame, everything that a lot of people in the world say they want, why are they drinking it away or drugging it away or doing it till they kill themselves? Because that's what the underlying thing is, Well,
and just because they have wealth and fame and all of that doesn't mean that they're happy on the inside. And so many people really mistake all of those things out there as they're going to bring you happiness. And happiness is something that's not created external to you. 100% generated from within. I mean, you can get temporary moments of pleasure, but pure.
Well, yeah, and yeah, so that's helping people get comfortable with where they are, so they can become the kind of person that they want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's awesome. So you obviously use, I'm sure, some NLP and hypnosis strategies. Why would you say that these are the best strategies for overcoming addiction?
It's a good question. I know it's because talking about a problem will not solve a problem.
Mm.
It'll make it worse. You're retelling the story. And I always get regressionists pissed with the next statement. Your memories are false, right? 50% of your memories are not right. You don't have the same brain you had at 22. You cannot tell me the exact things that happened, even because your brain is constantly adapting and changing. So, but NLP and hypnosis can help you make the changes at the subconscious level, which is where all the real change, as you well know, has to happen, right? You don't just think about it, you got to begin to do it, right?
You do.
And so we can bypass the critical factors. We can help unlock some of those things, overcome some of those fears, whatever they are, fear of having fun, whatever it is, fear of intimacy, and then attack those while we're going through it.
Absolutely. Well, and then you can also change the perspective on what it is, what it's going to be like, what your future life is like.
Right. Yes.
That's awesome. I think, my wish for hypnotherapy and NLP with regard to addiction is, it is the first thing that people think of if they have a problem with drugs or alcohol or any kind of addiction, is that they seek out help through hypnotherapy, because it is, like you said, it is all handled at the subconscious level. You just going to have a serious war on your hands trying to do this with your own puny little conscious mind. Right.
And a lot of hypnotists get caught. I train a lot of people in how to, with hypnotists and NLPers, on how to treat addictions, because a lot of times you'll get the call because a person may not want to go to a 12-step meeting,
mm-hmm.
right? Because A, they don't understand it, but B, maybe there are certain professions that you might not want to be known as an addict or an alcoholic. I have a friend who's been sober quite a while, but he's a teacher. He does not go to meetings in the town we live in.
Right.
Because he goes, trust me, some idiot would kid, I don't want you teaching my kids. You're an alcoholic. Even though if he hadn't had a drink in 2 decades, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Right. And so, but you could go to a hypnotist and no one's going to know.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
So.
And so they can go to your website, www.drwillhorton.com.
The easiest is www.aasolved. So it's AASOLVED.com.
Oh, that's new. Okay.
Yeah.
aasolved.com. Okay, so that's aasolved.com.
And I'm working on a new book that I'm excited about that'll probably be out. I'm going to skip the one I was going to do, and the next one's going to be Fast Addiction Recovery.
Ooh, fast addiction recovery. When is that going to come out?
In the probably September or October. If you go and if fastaddictionrecovery.com, if you type that in, it goes to the website.
Okay.
I got that. You know, we do study some marketing, right? You and I.
Yes.
Like, first, get the website. Get the website.
Oh yes, definitely.
Even if you never use it, get the website.
Oh, I've got so many domains for that. It's like I get an idea. It's like, wait, let me just look it up and see if that domain's available.
Well, and people, you know how valuable that is. We had a website once called Writer's Quest, right? Because my wife writes, and we had book, but we let it go. We never did anything with it, right?
Yeah.
And then she goes, maybe I'll look it up again. I looked it up. The guy was selling it. It sold for $10,000.
Oh my goodness.
By a guy that wrote magazines. So,
oh wow. You could have got it for $9.99, $9.99.
We had it for years. We just put the site up. Yeah. Cool.
That is cool. So it's go to fastaddictionrecovery.com, and like, do you have a way that people can like sign up for updates or something like that?
Yeah. There's a way to sign up for the e-zine and the things. Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. That's great. So, well, thank you so much for being on the show. Let's talk just a little bit for those hypnotists who are listening that are going to be coming and joining us both at HypnoThoughts Live in August. That is coming up really fast. What is today? Today is the 22nd, 23rd. This month's going by so fast. This year's going by so fast. But anyway, so HypnoThoughts Live is mid-August, the 16th, 17th, 18th. So tell us about what you're going to be training on there.
Well, I'll be teaching a 4-hour class on addictions. I call it hypnoaddictionology.
Hypnoaddictionology.
I talk about this new model and some treatment things you can do. How to
is that your dog?
Yes. Shut up. So I'll be doing that. And I'm also going to be doing a quick talk there on the biology of addiction. Not addictions, of hypnosis. The biology
of hypnosis.
Right.
Ooh, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, the stuff, because science is catching up to what we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to I always give the quick example. When I first started learning this 36 or 7 years ago, they talked about mirror and match. Right?
Yes.
Mirror match, it works. And people, they could argue about it. Now they know that you actually have mirror neurons in your brain. That's a survival mechanism.
I actually talk about mirror neurons in my book.
It's like, but they didn't know that they didn't find, I think they found that out in 99.
Yes.
So we've been teaching it for 20 years when they go, oh, guess what? You were right. Here's the science.
Yes.
So I'm getting to do that. What are you teaching at HypnoThoughts?
Yeah, so I'm teaching 2 classes as well. I am teaching, of course, a Law of Attraction 101 training on Friday morning at 10. And that's going to basically give you a pretty good introduction to how Law of Attraction works, how your mind works, how to actually make it work for you rather than against you, because Law of Attraction is always working, always on. Universe is always listening and checking in and listening to your conversations, even the ones that you're not saying out loud. And so we're going to teach you how to get more in alignment with the Law of Attraction. And then on Sunday morning, bright and early, so no late night partying on Saturday night, bright and early at 8 a.m., we're going to be teaching you some email marketing strategies, because whether you think that A lot of times, people think that email marketing is not where it's at anymore. It's text marketing or ManyChat or Facebook marketing, but it's, we all still have email accounts. We're still opening up our emails, right? And so how do you get those people onto your email list? I'm going to teach 50 different ways and strategies to create lead magnets that will magnetize people to want to come to sign up for your email list. So that's what I'm teaching.
Yeah, I'll be at that one for sure.
Yes, definitely. Some good marketing training there. So, well, thank you again so much for being on Power of Your Mind podcast. And for our listeners who have been here listening, make sure that you go and listen to this podcast, review this podcast, share the podcast with your friends, and visit Dr. Will Horton's site at aasolved.com or Fast Addiction Recovery. And you can also find him on Facebook at facebook.com/Dr. Will Horton. And so thank you for being a guest on Power of Your Mind podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
See you later. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends. And once again, be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast if not already. We can be found as Hip Talk on all our social media accounts. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course at hiptalk.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast, and you'll be instantly notified the moment the next podcast becomes available. Also, please be sure to leave a rating and a review to tell us how you're enjoying these episodes, and that way you're making a contribution toward others getting to share in this valuable information. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast, brought to you by HipTalk.com, Personal Growth Club, and HypnoCloud apps available at iTunes.